Okay, so I am live. I'm going to try and invite Louise, and I must apologise for being late. I'm going to be 100% garden. So yeah, that's what I was doing. So Louise just messaged me and said, "Right, I'm ready," and I'm like, "Oh my god, I completely forgot." So still in my gardening gear. I have actually washed my hands. That's something. So Louise, are you here? If you are, if you can see that I'm live, come and join me. These lives are always a bit tricky on my phone. Here she is, so she should be coming up any minute. There we go. Can't see you. There you go. Now I can. Now I
Had the camera the wrong way around.
Oh God, I was just saying that I'd completely forgotten until you messaged me. I was just hands in soil, so I'm like, ah. Anyway, we're here now.
Oh, what are you doing then? Doing your garden?
Oh yeah, I never ever garden, but I just needed to like, I'm not even going to bore everyone with gardening details. I mean, what the hell? But there we go. I'm going out tonight, otherwise I would have started having a few drinks early, but I better not. I better leave it till later on. So anyway, Louise, thank you
Yeah.
for joining me. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, enjoying the weather. Lovely day. So yeah, it's good. Nice to see you again. Haven't seen you for a
I know
while.
it's been a while, hasn't it? So we haven't done a postnatal pod for a little while because I've been having to take a bit of a break just because I've got other work going on and stuff at the moment. But we are starting back again in June. So June the 3rd, so a month today. Well, no, it'll be on a Tuesday, but yeah, 3rd of June.
Exciting.
Yeah, really exciting. So it's been really nice to actually sit down and chat with all of the postnatal pod specialists because sometimes there might be mums who are thinking about it, or it might seem a long, long way off, but that time quickly comes around. And the reason I started all of this was because when I had my first baby, I was living away from all family, friends, area. So everything I knew was kind of gone. And I just felt pretty kind of like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? And was getting really conflicting information, found it really hard to kind of find in-person information. So, turning to Google in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, probably one of the worst things to do. And sleep is a big subject. I don't think anything can prepare you, even in pregnancy when we're not sleeping great. Nothing actually prepares you until that baby arrives. And it's different for everyone. There's highs and lows, but it is, I would say, a real roller coaster. So first of all, I think it'd be great if you could just introduce who you are, what you do, and actually how you came about being in this world of helping people with sleep.
Yeah, so I'm Louise and I am the founder of Jocelyn Sleep and the Jocelyn Sleep System, which is a system that I've created to help other parents with sleep. And yeah, like yourself, a real roller coaster with sleep. I don't think I'd ever really thought about sleep or how it works, how it affects me. Before I had children, obviously had every opportunity to catch up on sleep. If I was ever tired, I am such a good napper. So it's just like, if you don't have a good night's sleep, you just find a window to catch up, don't you? But obviously, when you've got a baby, you can't do that. So, especially if it's a baby that's higher needs, and some children, some babies are easier than others when they're little, and we never know like what complications we might experience. Um, and how much you're going to be able to put them down, or what support systems you've got, if you're going to have lots of visitors that can hold the baby for you, or if you've got a baby that just doesn't want to let go and you're with it like literally 24/7. So my experience with sleep was really varied with all my kids. I've got three, and like yourself, I never really got to many in-person sessions, certainly nothing like the postnatal pod when mine were little. There was obviously the baby room where we run the sessions, which was in a slightly different format back then. So there were places to go and get support, but it was really a case of finding it, like you say, like in the middle of the night when you're kind of like at breaking point and you just need an answer. I think looking back, my first child probably had some digestive issues. Probably she was experiencing reflux, but I had not heard of it or had any kind of preparation for what it might look like or what the symptoms were. So looking back, I think she probably did, but she was a baby that I just could not put her down. She just didn't want to lie, never put her flat on her back. And, you know, all the guidance, what you should do, just didn't work. But with one child, I found I could just manage, you know, it was doable. The middle one was not too bad with sleep until she got to about 18 months and then went through a real big developmental phase, and her sleep really went downhill about 18 months. So she'd been quite good up until 18 months. And then it was lots of nighttime driving, which again, having no real insight into how the effects of sleep deprivation affect you, and that it's essentially it's the equivalent of being drunk when you've been awake for more than a certain amount of time. And driving would work for her. As soon as she got into the car, she would fall asleep. It just meant I couldn't stop.
Absolute detriment, really. I mean, you know, these things we do that is such a rod for our own backs. So that would be actually as well, probably when you think about it, if you like was kind of in your right frame of mind at that time, you probably, or to a friend, you'd be like, what on earth are you doing? Why are you getting behind the wheel? But of course.
I look back now and I'm just like, I'm so grateful that nothing happened. It was fine. But the possibility was definitely there. And I broke down recently. I didn't have any of the kids with me, and I was just like, oh, it just brought back all those memories of the nighttime driving. I just thought, God, I was so lucky. I was so lucky. So that was our experience with her, and still had never heard of sleep consultants or sleep support. So really was just trying to figure it out, just kind of like wading through the sleep deprivation, just trying to figure something out. And then with my third child, he started off quite good when he was first born. First couple of months, absolutely fine, and then hit about 4 months, which is quite a common age. We talk about this a lot in the postnatal pod. Around 4 months, there is such a massive, rapid phase of development going on. And it was almost like overnight he turned into a different child, and sleep just disappeared. It just didn't happen. And he would wake every hour. I was breastfeeding him, so I'd feed him to sleep and put him down. He would sleep for about an hour, then he would wake up, and it was just a cycle. And our nighttime lasted quite a long time. So if he was technically in bed for 12 hours, it would be a rotation of like a feed, 1 hour sleep, awake. You know, there was lots of crying as well, which was really distressing. He'd wake up crying, and then I would have to feed him. It was the only thing I could do to settle him. And so I think I did the maths on this. And I think I worked out that it was like over 2 hours of crying every night, because the amount of times he was waking up and how long he would cry for. And it was just heart-wrenching, just not being able to do anything. And he didn't really sleep during the day unless he was in a sling, or in the pushchair. So there was no catching up. And obviously with 3 children, there's minimal time to catch up on sleep anyway. But with a baby that doesn't nap, and he was born just as lockdown ended. So there was a little bit more freedom, but there certainly wasn't lots of visitors in and out like there was with the older 2. It was like things were lifted, but it was still quite slow to kind of get back to, well, I say normal, but the new normal.
Yeah.
And I will say my mental health just dive bombed. It just went down. The lack of sleep and the stress of managing 3 children and not enjoying it at all. Like, it was really, really hard. I can remember dragging myself and the kids to the park one day because I knew we had to be out of the house, because staying in the house all day was just too much. It was too, they need to be out running around and stuff. So we'd gone down to the park and I was like, oh. I remember talking to this mum, and I'd never met her before. Turns out she lives opposite me, and we've been really good friends ever since. And she was like, oh, what a cute baby you've got. And I just kind of like offloaded on this poor lady down the park. And I was really, I told her how much I was struggling, and once I started opening the floodgates, it all came out. And she looked at me and she said, why don't you just get a sleep consultant? And I was like, what? A what? And she said, yeah, you can just hire someone to help you fix this. And I was like, what? Why has nobody told me about this before?
Yeah.
I've got 3 children and my eldest was 5.5 at the time. And I was like, I've done parenting for 5.5 years and nobody told me that you could just sort it out. So I went home and literally just got on Google and Googled the first one I could find. And yeah, I phoned her up, had a little like consultation on the phone. She's like, well, you might want to go away and think about it. And I was like, no, I need this. Can we start now? Can we start now? So we started the next day, and within 3 days of working with her, I think we started on the Thursday. By the Monday, I think I had a call with her, and he slept through on the Sunday night.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just, I mean, he was still breastfeeding. So when I say sleeping through, and this is one of the things that we talk about on the postnatal pod as well, is like, what do we mean when we say sleeping through? So for us, sleeping through was having 2, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 now. I think we started off with 3 breastfeeds during the night. And then by the end of our work together, we'd cut out the breastfeeds and he was completely night weaned. But in the beginning, in the first 3 days, we had 3 planned dream feeds, which worked really well for him. He responded so well to that. And in between the feeds, he slept, and there was no crying. When he woke up to feed, he was content, and that was for me like the biggest relief, was just to see that he was content. Yeah, he still had needs. He still had needs, but he was happy to, I felt like I could meet his needs without any upset. And I think I got like a block of 6 hours, and it was just so good. And I always say, once you get 6 hours, it's like the minimum really, but you feel so good after you get that first 6 hour block.
Like a human, perhaps a little bit more. It is worth saying here as well, actually, that, like the first session where it's midwife Pippa, who is a breastfeeding specialist. Of course, all babies, whether that's first, second, third, fourth, whatever baby it might be, are all going to be different. They're all going to have their unique set of needs. I mean, you've already said that you're a mum of three, and some people might think, oh, well, surely by number three, you've got it all sus, right? And but they're so different, and I think as well, certainly when we don't have enough sleep, everything else falls down.
Yeah.
And then that kind of lack of patience, the stress that we feel as well as an adult, as mum, but also the mum guilt as well, just massive. And
Yeah.
we wouldn't expect our best friend to go through something like this without some sort of support in place, yet we just push ourselves into these holes
Yeah.
and think that we can manage because that's what we do. Oh, I'm coping. We put on that kind of mask. So
Yeah. I think you make a really valid point there. And for me, I definitely had exactly the frame of mind that you described there of surely I should know what I'm doing by now. People are going to laugh at me when I tell them that I can't get my baby to sleep.
this is before
But I
you're a
think
sleep specialist yourself as well. So we're just
this is when I was getting support. Yeah. And I think it's a combination of when you're that sleep deprived, your ability to regulate your emotions is so impacted that we see things differently, we react to things differently, and it's very hard to regulate how we feel about situations that after we've had a good night's sleep we would feel completely differently. And for me, I think a lot of those like mind monkeys and those messages were really in my head. Nobody ever laughed when I said I was having a struggle,
no,
but I had told myself this story repeatedly. And it's part of the, when we talk about the late night Googling, is when you get some information and you really can go down a rabbit hole with it.
absolutely.
And yeah, so like, again, like the one of the really important things of the postnatal pod and the baby room and the in-person stuff particularly, I mean, you can do it online, but getting together with a group of people who are experiencing the same things as you and getting it all out in the open and being like, do you know what, I'm not the only one that's struggling with
Not just
this.
me.
And I think, yeah, in the pod, like all the mums have that kind of same realization of actually we're all going through it. Yeah, it's going to be different for everybody. It's going to affect you differently. Your child's going to be different. Like Pippa said, love Pippa, by the way. They are all different and it will affect you differently. But yeah, some of those worries that we have are like sleep and mental health. They mutually reinforce each other. And we just have to, and so getting out there and talking about it is so important.
I think the other thing is, before anyone has a baby, you think to yourself, yeah, I've been tired, or I've done an all-nighter, or I've had to work like shift work, and I'm knackered, but it's a different tired. It hits so different, and I can actually clearly remember when I was having my moments of real hardships with sleep with my first new baby, thinking, how on earth does anyone do this solo parenting for whatever reason? Oh my gosh, I have such respect for, because nothing prepares. The other thing that I think is really interesting, though, you might have a really supportive partner, but again, like the breastfeeding, we don't think about it really before, as we're preparing to welcome this new baby. It's all about thinking about the birth. And actually, maybe we should be starting to think about some of these things, these big topics like breastfeeding, or however you want to feed baby, and like sleeping. And actually, if you do have support in place, whether that's with a live-in partner, husband, wife, parent, whoever it might be, that actually as well, starting to have those conversations during the pregnancy, okay, like, look, if I'm really tired, I'm really struggling, how does this look? Are you going to be up and helping me? Or is it when you go back to work that actually you're expecting me to be in a separate room and being up all the time with the baby because you've got to work? And these things just do not get mentioned at all.
Yeah. I think, as a solo parent as well, I think it can work both ways. Sometimes I think it's easier when you don't have the negotiation of that. Like
Right.
that's not part of the equation for some people.
Mm,
So you can just do it the way that you choose to do it.
right.
And sometimes when you've got two parents that are approaching a situation with a completely different perspective,
Yeah.
there needs to be a lot of communication and a lot of negotiation and probably some compromise on both parties, which again takes time and energy to get to that point. I think you can make all the plans in the world before it happens, but like you said, once you're in that situation, whatever you've agreed beforehand probably goes out the window a lot of the
Yeah.
time. But it's about being able to communicate your needs when you need to,
Mm.
and being like really validated, really
Again,
listened
like
to.
that is really hard when our mental health is down and no one wants to admit that, oh, actually, that's something. Because as well, I think a lot of mums, I can remember thinking, well, I don't want to voice this because what if someone thinks, this is so much bigger than what it is, or what if I've got postnatal depression, or what if someone's going to come and take my baby? Your mind just is so irrational, I think, at certain points. So. Are you there? Um, it looks like you've frozen a minute. Oh, there you go. You're back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to the earlier thing you mentioned about the solo parenting, because I think everybody is a solo parent at times. Even if you are in a really supportive relationship, or you have a partner that lives with you or doesn't live with you, like the majority of the parents that we speak to um, are solo parenting for at least some of the time,
Mm,
some more than others. It might be that they have a partner that works away a lot. It might be that they do shift work or whatever.
yeah.
So essentially, we are doing a lot of the parenting, especially the middle of the night stuff. We are doing it solo,
Mm,
and it really does. It can bring out the best and the worst in people, can't it? But I think it's about having somebody like to share it with,
mm,
and if you don't have a partner at home that you can talk to, if they're working away or something like that, having like that group of mum friends
yeah.
that get it, that you can just go, do you know what, it was one of those nights,
Yeah.
and you know that they're just going to say, I understand.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
What I love
without
about the Postnatal
questioning
Pod
you.
is they've got that group. They're all on the WhatsApp. They text each other, message each other in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., whatever it is. Is anybody else awake? And it's just sometimes, yeah, I'm awake. That you're not
Yeah,
alone out there in these early hours trying to kind of like, just do it all. Just to have someone go, oh my gosh, yes, this is really hard, or me too, I'm struggling, or are you watching something, whatever it might be, the way their chats go, but that I know that they found that massively, massively helpful. Um,
it's it's so nice to see like the progression of the group, and like the first, in the early days when they're getting together, and then by the end of it when you can see like the group is formed and they're all chatty and swapping numbers, it's so nice.
yeah, it is amazing. A couple of things I do want to talk about just before we kind of go into some other stuff as well. So second one will be about kind of the science of it, because again, this is fascinating. Obviously there is science behind sleep and everything, so touching a little bit about that, not too much. And then also I did just want to mention, in terms of safe sleeping guidelines, like the Lullaby Trust, the amazing resources that they have. Again, for anyone who's pregnant, great resources to start looking at and reading up on. So yeah, just touching on those two things first.
Yeah, the Lullaby Trust is so user friendly as well, and the information they have for safe sleeping is like really accessible, which is great. we don't recommend any particular like we'll go for co-sleeping or cot sleeping. Like there really is, like, as a parent, you get to decide the sleep space for your child. And sometimes it's not necessarily what you're expecting it to be. You know, some people think they'll never co-sleep, but they actually really enjoy it. Other people think they're going to like co-sleeping, but it just doesn't work for them. Like, there isn't a right or a wrong. It really is about your choice and what works for your family. But whatever decision you make, there is a lot of advice and support about how you can make it safe for your circumstances and how you can set things up. And that's something when we talk about in the pod is like, well, we're going to do this, but how do we transition? What do we do about blankets and things like that? So yeah, lots of information out there that's very accessible. And if anybody wants anything shared, we can send it around after the group. Sometimes people do ask for additional resources, which is great. And the science of sleep, I think one of the things that we tend to cover is around this big transition between sort of 4 and 6 months, because a lot of the babies are around that age.
I'm trying to think, what do they all call it again? It's gone from my mind. They don't
The
call
fourth
it.
trimester. The fourth
No,
trimester.
what do they call it? They all the sleep regressions.
Yeah.
I know you don't like that.
I'm not a fan of the term sleep regressions,
Mm.
which is why when you ask me, it's not in my vocabulary.
Yes.
It's not something that I ever would bring up or mention, because the whole term of sleep regression is factually and medically incorrect. It does exist in a lot of popular sleep training methodologies, and you'll hear it all the time as the cause of poor sleep. And the way when I hear people talking about the 4 month, especially the 4 month sleep regression, is like, brace yourself, get your
Yeah,
hard hat, like we're going into
yeah,
something.
yeah.
And it's like, how long is it going to last for you? And I feel like there is so much anxiety around sleep regressions, which is completely unnecessary. And I was mentioning earlier about our ability to regulate our emotions, which is kind of, it changes after we give birth anyway. But when we're tired, you know, there's more difficulties there. And then to be given all of this really conflicting, anxiety inducing advice that you could brace yourself for this sleep regression, because no one really understands it. We don't know how long it's going to last, or if you're even going to come out the other side of it. And it's like, let's just stop using the term, because it's not helpful. Your child is going through a rapid phase of development. They are not regressing, they're not losing anything. It's actually the complete opposite. They are gaining skills every single second. You look at them and they will literally change in front of your eyes. I can remember when my middle daughter, she was about 4 months old, and it was like every time I looked at her, her forehead grew and she got this bald patch at the front. And it was like every time I looked at her forehead was just getting bigger and bigger. And it was like she was growing in front of my eyes. She's absolutely gorgeous baby, by the way. But I can remember that face so clearly. And it was like her brain is growing every day. And she is watching everything. She is learning and she is practicing. It might be blowing bubbles. It might be that the skill your little one is working on is blowing bubbles. But that to them is hard work.
Yeah.
You know, they are working really hard at blowing those bubbles, and it takes energy and it uses brain power. And it means that it's hard for them to then switch off. And the way I describe it is disengaging from their environment, because around 4, 5, 6 months, their environment is becoming so interesting. there are things that have always been there that they never saw, and at that age they start to see things differently, and it's so exciting and so interesting that they can't like take their eyes off it. And to say that they're going through regression is just so, in my mind, so wrong. It's such a bad description. So that's something that I'm really, as you could probably tell, quite passionate about.
No, it's great. I mean, because it's something that comes up every session. So with the Postnatal Pod, basically, just to explain for anyone who hasn't been or doesn't know or is thinking about coming. So we get to see you by about normally week 4 or week 5, because you know we've gone through some other things first, almost like the stepping stones, but also babies, you know, like you say, they're growing so rapidly. So week on week on week, you know, they're changing. So by the time you come to host your session, what you've done recently, which I think has worked well, we've talked about it, it has worked so well, is when you kind of put out there some questions. You know, you're individualizing the needs of the group, because of course sleep is such a massive subject. I mean, we could be there for a whole day and still not cover anything enough. So you're really kind of asking the mums and getting a snapshot of what it is they are wanting in the here and now, or maybe later on. What's lovely with the Postnatal Pod is babies are often fairly similar ages, but there is a mix. So you're going to have those really little ones, and then you're going to have some older ones. So what we find is that they are really helping each other through that session as well, again with the kind of understanding and realization of, oh, this is not just me, it's not just my baby, actually this is all very normal. You are certainly debunking a lot of the myths, taking away a lot of the guilt, and just giving them some solid kind of starting points to consider, because it might not be right for right now, but as well what they then got is takeaways that you give them, but they also know who you are and what you do and how they can seek that support from you. Because I think as well, one of the things is a lot of people will see sleep specialists advertised. It's a bit of a minefield perhaps, but also, you know, let's face it, financially, times are tough, and some people might think this is totally out of their reach. So there's lots that you do to enable as much as possible that everyone is able to seek that support that is so needed from you, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, we really want to maximize the time that we've got and make the most out of it and make the session really valuable to the people that are, you know, they're investing their time in being there. And you know, it's harder to babies sometimes, you know, it's not always easy for the mums. They've got their feeding and changing and all sorts. So it's like, all right, well, if you're going to show up and you're going to invest this time in the session, then we want to make it really valuable for you. And I think the best way to do that is by tailoring it to the group, finding out. And the way I would describe it to the mums when I'm asking them is, what is the last thing you were scrolling? What's the last thing you were scrolling? And let's bring that up for discussion, because it tends to be that you start scrolling and you'll find some information, and then you'll find some conflicting information, and then some more conflicting information, and then someone will give you a bit of advice, and it kind of goes on and snowballs. So it's like, well, let's have that discussion. That tends to work really well. And sometimes the questions are quite similar, especially if the babies are the same age or the family dynamics are similar. So sometimes we might get 3 or 4 questions that are not identical but very closely linked. So I can put those questions together and we can kind of answer them as one and say, how does your experience sit with that? How does your experience sit with that? Does it work for you? So that's really great. And then other times we get a question which is very unique to the situation, and it might not feel that relevant at the time, but chances are you'll experience it if it's not now. Like say, if it's not right now, it will come up at some point in the future. So they've got that especially when we have like newborn through to like 6-7 months, we get a whole mixture of questions. So I think that's really good. And it's nice sometimes when you get the mums with the older babies who are going, oh, I remember, yeah, I remember with that, and it was temporary. We did come out the other side of it, and it didn't last forever, don't worry. And then afterwards, like I said, the mums have such a good support for each other. So that's definitely one thing that they get out of it, is that they can lean on each other when they need to. And then I have very much like an open door policy of, if anybody leaves the session with more questions, or they feel like they didn't have enough. Sometimes, you know what it's like in the moment, you can't think what you want to ask,
like, oh
and
my
then
God, I should have asked this.
what did she say about that? So it's very much, I say to people, you can send me a DM on Instagram, or you can send me an email, or you can come to one of the drop-in sessions that I run at the baby room, and I'm more than happy. I don't want to gatekeep any information. If I've got the time, then I will answer your question to the best of my ability. And that's worked really well. And we've got now some of the mums who are on like second or third babies coming back through, and it's like a real community. So it's really great.
It is great. And to have that there in Exeter as well, at the baby room, where you are there, it doesn't have to cost the world. In fact, you give away a lot of free information, but
I would say, I mean, I think there is a big misconception with sleep consultancy. So I've done 2 certifications to become qualified as a sleep consultant. Not that you have to have qualifications, it's an unregulated industry. So I don't personally know any sleep consultants that aren't certified, but I'm sure there are some out there, and I'm sure that there's some very good ones that don't have certifications, because there are other experiences and life experiences that we can bring to it. But it is quite a mixed bag. But everything I've learned, all of the courses that I've done, all of the workshops, the trainings, is information which is available online or in books. We're in the information era. So everything your sleep consultant knows is available to you. There isn't like, actually have this book of like the secrets to sleep that nobody else is allowed to look in. No, this is just actually an empty notebook. No, it doesn't exist. We don't have any secret information that you're not allowed to find out unless you pay us. We have the same information. We have access to the same information that you have access to. It is just that we can filter and apply it to your circumstances, and we take away you having to make decisions or filter, and we can use our experience and say, I've worked with so many families that are in a very similar situation to yours. This is what has worked really well. I've used a lot of this with my own children, because even now, practicing as a sleep consultant, my kids always have disrupted nights now and again for illness, development, random ones that we can't explain. I'm still going through it as you're going through it, and problem solving on not a nightly basis, but we can have bouts of really bad sleep as well. So we have the same information. It's just like if you were going to go to the gym, you could go to the gym, you could use the equipment, you could read up on workouts and make yourself a plan. You could watch some YouTube videos on how to do weight training and stuff like that. Or you could have a personal trainer where you turn up to the gym, you've got a small amount of time and you want to get the most out of it. And you go, can you just show me what to do?
And sometimes you get better results. Sometimes we do have to invest for something that is valuable, that is bespoke for somebody's needs as well. And I think there's that as well. There's that little bit of sometimes some people need it. And like you, where you were kind of at your wit's end with number three, and it was just like, do you know what? At this point in life, I would almost pay whatever it takes because
I,
this is
I would
so
have written a blank.
necessary.
I personally would have written a blank check for mine because I felt like I couldn't carry on.
Mm,
And a lot of my clients have been at that
mm,
point of desperation. And I don't say it lightly when they say postnatal depression
mm,
and sleep deprivation is an awful mixture.
absolutely.
And throw into the mix some bad life experiences and a bit of adversity, and it really can be a real struggle. So I would have 100% written a blank check for it. But I also know people that they can read a book and they can apply what they've learned and have really good results from that as well. It's a very mixed
Mm,
bag. And if you do feel like you need support, then um, like it's out there, it's available in some shape or
mm,
form. Help is available, and it's maybe just doing a little bit of research into what is available and what do you think would suit you the most. Some people love working with coaches and they might be familiar with having a personal trainer or a business coach or some other kind of mentor, and it feels more natural. Other people might not work well on a one-to-one basis like that. They might prefer to read and digest and process the information themselves. Like it's totally up to you, but just know that there is support out there if you
yeah.
need it.
And sometimes it's quite nice in the sessions as well, I think, when they've got slightly older children, often kind of, 2 or 3 years in between is the usual for or either end. And actually their thing is, right, hang on, I've got this baby, but my toddler, what do I do about my toddler? Like, who am I prioritizing here? And for them to get that information as well. And again, just sometimes you just need to hear it from somebody
Yeah,
and be like, you know what, you're doing okay. Actually, what you've done naturally, if that's what's working for you and your family, there's no, like you said, there's no necessarily right or wrong with this.
yeah. I think there was one. I think we're probably thinking about the same pod where it was at least half the group said actually the baby's not the problem. Feel like the baby sleeps fine. It's the older
Yeah,
one that's the problem.
yeah.
And it's like you can, like I said with mine, like you can manage one,
Mm,
but then when you get another one in the
yeah.
mix, what was just about manageable feels unsustainable, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
no, yeah. And I think like there was like 3 or 4 from the group that I ended up doing strategy calls with
Yeah.
afterwards because they were like, no, we need to get on top of the older
And I
one.
mean, and we
Yeah.
often hear, I certainly felt it personally myself with my second. It wasn't as hard. I think maybe my body, my mind had just got used to working on that lack of sleep, But it is tough, and that's why the postnatal pod, you as a specialist, them having access to that is just massive. I mean, we could talk for hours about, yes, there is the science to sleep, yes, there is patterns, there's hormones, there's we can talk about naps, we can talk about daytime sleep, does sleep produce more sleep, we talk about this whole sleep when the baby sleeps kind of thing. I mean, anyone who's got a baby who's watching this back thinking, are you joking? The baby sleeps, so all of that. And I think what is lovely is we do have a bit of a laugh with it as well, don't we? Because I think it's a real kind of light bulb moment that goes off for a lot of them where they're thinking, oh my God, okay, this is this, I'm doing okay here. In fact, I should be patting myself on the back because I'm doing bloody more than okay here. And I think that's what they get as well. They leave these sessions thinking, oh, thank God for that. Okay,
Yeah,
we're doing all right.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
oh, it's been lovely. I mean, there's like we said, there's so much more we could talk about, but we're not going to because we don't have time. It's Saturday. It's bank holiday. If anyone wants more information, though, what I'll do, I'm going to tag you in this, obviously, anyway. But yeah, do you want to just kind of talk a little bit before we go about where people can find you or how they can access you, either online, in person. Do you have any kind of workshops or anything coming up? Postnatal Pod starts in June, so your session will be in July, I think. Can't remember the date off the top of my head.
Yeah, I
But
think it's
yeah,
early July.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Facebook, social media. I love getting on social media and chatting to people. I get lots of questions in the DMs from
Voice notes
people.
are quite good for you as well, aren't
Especially,
they?
yeah, yeah. I have my website, which has got all the information about everything I do
What's your
on
website?
there,
So
and
I'll write that in there as well.
it's jocelynsleep.com. Yeah.
JocelyNSleep.com.
I've got a session coming up on the 16th of May at the Baby Room at 2:30, which is a well, I say drop in, but I've actually copied the format of getting people to register and submit their questions in advance now for the drop-ins. So it's not exactly a drop-in because you do have
Okay.
to register. But what it means is we maximise the time a lot more by answering people's questions in advance. And I would say that if there is anybody signed up to the next postnatal pod that has questions now, it would be a great time to come in and chat things through, and then we can always catch up again on
That's
the
a good.
pod. Or once we've had the pod, I think there will be one drop-in session mid-July, which is going to be the last one until sort of probably October. So after we've had the pod, there is a chance for people to come back if they need to and get some more support. And I think there aren't any workshops planned at the moment because I've been busy building a tool with, actually, I've had some of the previous postnatal pod mums involved in developing a tool which is available on the website for people to use, which is a sleep health check. And they've been giving feedback on how effective it is, and that's been really nice that we have that. Yeah, they're still like really involved and stuff. Yeah, it's been really good.
Oh wow, amazing. Oh, brilliant. And if anyone is sitting here thinking, oh, hang on, I was hoping you might cover this or you didn't talk about that, just message Louise,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. She's there to help. She is amazing, and we're so lucky to have you as part of
Oh,
the Thank you.
oh,
Oh, cheers, Louise. Well, have a good rest of the weekend. Nice long bank holiday weekend, and it's actually weather at the moment. So here in Exmouth, it's absolutely heaving. It's just crazy. So busy, busy, busy. But I will look forward to seeing you very soon.
all right. Take care. You have a great weekend too. See you soon.
Bye. 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 Right, now I've got to work out how to turn this thing off. I can never do it. I can never turn it off. How do we end the live? You still there? Try and turn it off. It's get my buttons in the wrong place to turn it off. Oh gosh. How do I turn? It's so annoying. I can't do this every time. I'm really going to have to Google how to do that. Oops, now I've given myself sparkles.